Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicole Maston and I am so excited to have y'all here today. If you're new here, I'd love to have y'all click that subscribe button. I post anything from homeschooling videos to motherhood encouragement and sometimes some home DIY. So if any of that resonates with y'all, I'd love to have you stick around. And I also wanted to mention that I just recently started just these weekly newsletters. So once a week I shoot y'all an email and it's called Table Talk Weekly, and in those emails I'm just sharing encouragement, things that are working for us, things that aren't working, what's kind of serving us in that week, and hope to just encourage y'all with those. So if you guys would like to subscribe to that email list, I'll put the link in the description of this video. But I wanted to chat with you guys for a little bit while I'm in the kitchen. This has kind of become a new norm, but this is where a lot of our life happens anyway, just right here around the kitchen. So I've been thinking a lot recently about how when I first started homeschooling, I just had all of these ideas in my head about what it was supposed to look like. So today I hope to bring you all some encouragement, maybe, help you to leave some of these things behind. In those the beginning season of homeschool, I just felt like I needed to do everything a certain way, have everything organized a certain way, have, a perfect routine and schedules and, all of that, all of the things I was seeing other moms do on Instagram and just kind of trying to replicate that. But over the years, I've actually found that I've completely stopped doing a lot of these things in our homeschool. Not because they're bad necessarily, but they just weren't working for our family and it just wasn't helpful. So I thought I'd share a few of those things with y'all today, just mom to mom. So number one, trying to recreate school at home. One of the biggest things I stopped doing was trying to, recreate the classroom at home. At the beginning, when I, first started homeschooling, I thought it had to look like a classroom. For those that know me, I was going to school to be a teacher. I worked in an elementary school setting. And so it was hard to kind of step away from that frame of mind. I thought we needed structured hours and everyone sitting at the table, all at once and just kind of running everything very orderly. And then it didn't take long, especially once I was homeschooling 2 children, to realize that home is not school and it doesn't really need to be. Honestly, some of our best learning actually happens in the middle of our normal life. Maybe one of my children will be reading at the counter while I'm making lunch, someone, asking questions as I'm doing the dishes up. And for those moments, I feel like it happens much more naturally than trying to force everything into this classroom structure. So I remember just early on thinking like something must be wrong because our homeschool wasn't looking the way I pictured it in my head. But over time, I really did start to realize that my kids were still learning. Like, even though it didn't look like this perfect classroom structure, my kids were actually picking up on a lot of things, especially after having our twins when, I was nursing on the couch and I realized that there was a lot of learning opportunities happening right there in our living room. So I feel like just kind of letting go of the fact that okay, you don't have to be sitting at the table. You don't have to be these time schedules. Let the learning just kind of unfold in those moments. The second one, I feel like I've had to have it all together. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of us moms struggle with that, just feeling like if everything's not put together, a certain way, then we're failing or we just feel behind. So I've really just stopped doing, this whole I need to have everything completely together all the time. And when we first started, I felt this pressure like every day needed to be planned perfectly. And if something went off schedule or, things felt chaotic, I felt like maybe I was doing something wrong. And I carried a lot of mom guilt, a lot of homeschooling mom guilt during those tough times when we had first brought the twins home and I was trying to still, have everything together and have everything going perfectly and running smoothly. And I found myself where, yes, because I wasn't able to plan everything out perfectly because the day was kind of unfolding the way it was unfolding, I carried a lot of guilt there. But the reality is, and for those that don't know, we are a family with multiple kids. living life, like real life together, is honestly the biggest blessing. Some mornings we start slower, and maybe one of my children wake up tired or frustrated, or maybe one of my toddlers need more attention that day. I have learned to just take what the day brings and stop trying to just get through it. I heard a YouTuber that I really look up to a lot, and she was saying, stop trying to get through the day and get something out of the day. And I feel like because, the days don't always go the way I pictured them, I still try to make the most of them and get something out of those moments. And so I realized that even if it's not all happening, all, how I pictured it going, that the day's not necessarily ruined, and, learning is still able to happen in the moments. 3 would be comparing our homeschool. I honestly think comparison is one of the hardest parts of homeschooling now that social media exists. And though I love, social media for, inspiration and things, it's hard because you see these beautiful homeschool rooms, and I still fall victim to this. Like, every time I think I like our homeschool space, I see someone with an amazing homeschool room, and I feel like, man, we need a bigger house so I can have that. Or maybe you see, they have these perfectly organized shelves, and it just seems like they have these beautiful, calm, quiet mornings. And I don't know, it's easy to look at that and feel like you're falling short. But our homeschool, honestly, usually looks like my kids around the kitchen table. And actually, that's where I came up with Table Talk Weekly, because so much of what we do happens at our kitchen table. And, maybe it's someone, at the kitchen counter while I'm doing up dishes and they're working through their morning work. I actually revamped our homeschool, well, it's our dining room, but I revamped it a bit and got these bar stools off Facebook Marketplace so I could have a spot for the kids to be when we do our breakfast and Bible, because I want them to be, still right there with me. And that's like my opportunity to get breakfast going, and then, they're right there. So I just feel like it's hard because you do fall into comparison traps sometimes, especially if you're new at this and you're looking to other homeschool moms for inspiration. But truthfully, it's not picture perfect most of the time because it's real life, right? And the kids are still learning. So I just had to really stop comparing myself to others. And yeah, it's they say it and it's cliche, but comparison is literally a thief of joy. So I definitely have tried to stop doing that. Another thing is expecting every day to run smoothly. I stopped expecting this early on because some days can be so wonderful and everyone's focused and lessons are going well and we end the day just feeling really encouraged. But then there's those other days where someone is struggling big time or someone's just distracted and the whole morning just feels a little chaotic. So I have stopped setting the expectation that every day is going to look the same and every day is going to go smoothly, because that's just not reality, especially when you're living real life with your children. There have definitely been days where I finished homeschool and thought, did we actually accomplish anything today? Because it doesn't feel like it. But then later in the day, I'll hear one of my kids talking about something they learned or just kind of asking, a thoughtful question. And it reminds me that learning is still happening even on those messy days. So just taking note of that. And then 5, forgetting why we started. This is probably the biggest thing I stopped doing because we chose to homeschool. So it's really easy to just get caught up in lessons and schedules and trying to make sure you're just doing everything right by the books. But when I step back, I remember that our goal wasn't just about finishing schoolwork. It's raising our kids and it's having time with them during these early years. These years are going so fast. My oldest, she is in 4th grade. She's 10 years old. And honestly, I savor those conversations that happen throughout the day with her because it feels like you blink and they're growing, so quickly. So those really are those sweet moments in homeschool that I wouldn't trade for anything. Just moments where one of my kids understands something that they've been working on, or we end up just having a deep conversation about life in the middle of the day. And those are definitely the moments where I'm reminded why we chose this. And I think it's easy to forget, especially when you're going through harder homeschool days, but you got to stop forgetting why you started. And then I just kind of want to leave y'all with this, because if you are a homeschool mom and you're watching this and maybe you feel like your homeschool isn't looking the way you thought it would, or you feel like you're not doing enough, I have found myself in these moments so many times. I just feel like there's been times where I've come to my husband at night and just told him, like, I'm just discouraged. And I feel like the devil does that. The devil looks to discourage us in our motherhood and in, the calling that God placed in our life. So I want to encourage you that you are honestly probably doing way better than you think you are. And homeschooling, it doesn't have to look perfect to be meaningful. I actually popped on Instagram today just kind of sharing because I woke up this morning so behind on housework. And if I'm being completely honest, it's really hard for me to be just to show those vulnerable moments. And I think it's because I tend to look up to women that seem like they have their things together. They're just women that are bringing peace and order into their homes. But the thought hit me, and I want to share it with y'all, that, maybe the evidence of a full, faithful life isn't always a spotless kitchen. Sometimes it's the sound of children learning, growing, and being loved. And y'all, motherhood, especially homeschooling and raising little ones, isn't always going to look perfectly together every moment of every day, and that's okay. I would love to hear from y'all. I'd love to hear, maybe something that you've let go of, something you've stopped doing in your homeschool. For me, it really is just getting out of that comparison trap, not trying to replicate school at home, and letting go of perfection. Because there is so much grace that lives there, and the Lord meets us there and teaches us valuable lessons that we can take through our homeschool journey. And honestly, I think just savoring those hard homeschool days and taking the lessons out of those, because there are a lot of lessons to be learned in the hard. So I hope this video is encouraging. I'd love to hear from y'all in the comments, and I hope to see y'all in the next video.